I mean, let's jam it out. This is a very related case. It's a very similar case, also with someone that has been getting away with horrible acts for a number of years. And I think this case, the R. Kelly case that everyone's talking about right now, wouldn't be as prominent. I don't think it even would exist if it wasn't really for other comedians like Dave Chappelle, who made videos and satire around this. It was also other comedians that brought down other abusers like Bill Cosby. And really, there's something to note here, because this is finally being recognized after years. I remember being in high school hearing about just the allegations because of Dave Chappelle and comedians against R. Kelly. Otherwise, the media has been widely just being like, yeah, this is totally fine, as millions of fans adorned this criminal. Now, we're finally seeing some kind of recourse. We're seeing that R. Kelly is facing, 70 years in jail? The creepy porn lawyer is involved here. Jason, what's happening here? Give us the breakdown of the latest information with R. Kelly.
Luke, so much to break down in this case because, like you said, this case is decades old. It's super old. This isn't new. This shouldn't be shocking to anybody. Let's break it down, folks. R. Kelly marries a 15-year-old pop star who he essentially buys from the parents, brings her up, makes an album called Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, goes on television with her. Everybody knows it. Everybody ignores it. After she dies in a plane crash, the marriage is annulled. It's like it never happened. This guy just gets away with it. And people like me are like shaking their head, going, what's going on? What's going on? And then a tape comes out, Luke. And it's not a good tape. It's a tape of R. Kelly with not one, but 3 different women. And when you find out that one of these women is probably 14 years old, there's no way to tell. Because her uncle, who basically, again, sold the girl to him, never testified. The parents of the girl were out of the country when it went to court. They never testified. R. Kelly himself said it was his brother. His brother, of course, said, it's not me. Anybody with 2 eyes could find out it was R. Kelly. And the guy walks. He walks as a guy who not only paid an underage girl money for sexual acts and then peed on her in video, but made that tape and it got distributed. Now, flash forward to the Me Too outrage and people like An Open Secret, people like myself, people like this news organization trying to shine the light that Kelly is still doing these things, that nothing has changed, that it's still going on. And lo and behold, the voices got loud enough, Luke, where you had a Lifetime series, a breakthrough Lifetime series come out called Surviving R. Kelly. And I'm getting text messages from people. These things, they're running it concurrently every night. Every day I'm getting a new text. I can't, this is crazy. Burmis, you told me this. I can't believe how much of this. Oh my God, this is insane. How is this guy not in jail? And I'm like, I don't know how he's not in jail either. 3 weeks ago, Luke, what do we have? We have video of one of R. Kelly's assistants going into the studio at 5 in the morning. It's still dark out. And leaving with a computer and a hard drive. Only hours later, the police raid that same establishment. Who tipped R. Kelly off to get that computer? Can you imagine what was on that computer?
And there was a similar case with Epstein with the same thing. When agents came to his house, they saw just computer wires hanging out with all the computers missing. Similar cases, absolutely crazy. Go on.
No, it's just like CNN has instinct to be at Roger Stone's house when the FBI comes and raids. R. Kelly just must be a psychic to send his assistant down to go grab the computers that might have some really damning evidence on them. So let me say this. Last week, when Michael Avenatti, somebody I think is a pure scumbag, has revealed himself to be a pure scumbag, is a lawyer seeking attention, injected himself into the Kavanaugh case, into one of the most ludicrous of accusers, the one that we never even saw her face. Her accusations were so crazy, okay? And he had offered her money. We've seen that. He's not a guy to be trusted. Michael Avenatti joins the mix, and he holds a press conference. He says he's got a new tape of Kelly with a 14-year-old girl. I was skeptical. Now, you can't trust what Avenatti does in an age of deep fakes, in an age where people like Jussie Smollett fake hate attacks for more and more attention, for more and more notoriety. I was hesitant. And when I posted, I said, Avenatti claims to have. Well, guess what? We're a week later, and the charges are here, my friend. They are actually here. He surrendered himself. He looked terrible when he did so. He has now been charged with sexually abusing 4 different women. And at least, we're not really sure about the 4th yet, but the reports are at least 3 of these girls are absolutely 100% underage. So you got to ask yourself, how does a guy like this get away with it for so long? How does a guy like this make an album with Jay-Z after marrying a 15-year-old girl called The Best of Both Worlds and go on tour with him? How does his music get played throughout the country and women still cry when they see him? Well, we live in a brainwashed, celebritard culture where people like him are celebrated. And the big question is, Luke, was he protected because of something like this? Now, I'm going to read this blind in full because R. Kelly's name is not named here, but I think it is extremely important to read this. This comes from Crazy Days and Nights, the anti-lawyer blog that exposed Epstein in a way no one else has. You read some of those blinds, Luke? There are stuff in those blinds about Epstein that make your jaw drop that are published nowhere else.
Yeah, the details here also, I've been watching some of the depositions and some of the talks that are going out there. Absolutely crazy. I mean, this guy has a serious problem. He's talking about women who turned him down. He would just angrily, aggressively spit at them. There's also talks of cults that you talked about before. You've been talking about this for a long while, Jason, being completely ignored, but you've been right on top of it so many times.
Yeah, it's like when you see a story like Nexium break, and somehow it involves Roger Stone and Kristen Gillibrand's father, you're like, what the hell is going on? When you see a story like Epstein break, and it's Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey and Bob Weinstein and Bill Clinton, you're like, what the hell is going on? And when you read a blind like this about R. Kelly, maybe it shines a little light on why this guy hasn't been brought to justice yet. So we're going to read the whole thing, and then we're going to get some input from you guys. Want to have sex with a female teen who is barely a teen? Want her to be experienced? Want to make sure you are not arrested? Is it no wonder this former A-list singer stays in demand and is not blacklisted for his past? It is because he provides a service to other singers, rappers, celebrities, and politicians. They come to wherever he is living and get to spend time, an hour or a night, with one of the string of teens he has groomed. He still sings and he still gets really good songs because of his side gig. He also knows he won't get arrested because of the people taking advantage of his services, and also knows that if he sticks to teens of color, the police and parents tend to turn the other way. Currently, he only has 6 teens, but he is looking to expand, but needs a bigger place and also needs to remain in the same city because it is where his customers have the most influence. Yes, that was the CEO of a top 50 company out with one of the singer's groomed teens. Why, yes, that was this old permanent A-list, mostly movie actor out with one of them too. He published this last year. So again, he doesn't name Kelly, but it has all the earmarks, and it sure would explain, Luke, why a guy who's now been caught twice on video with underage girls isn't serving a prison sentence.
For so long. I mean, it's absolutely crazy for how long this has been going, and there hasn't been any kind of repercussion, any kind of justice, any kind of bigger look into this. And he's, one of the most top popular celebrities out there. Everyone still keeps blasting his songs on, of course, the controlled radio industry, the controlled music industry. Fans are still blushing and rushing him and loving him. But the reality is, this guy's a sick dude. He's into some, I would say, the way to describe some of this is satanic, occult, sick stuff, especially when you get into the details of how he not only treated women, but how he controlled them and how he abused them in many abusive psychological ways, not just physical ways that are not only deprived, but just some turn out to be outright evil, at least in my book.
No, you're absolutely right. And, I'm looking in the comments section, and somebody said, it's sad because R. Kelly was molested himself. His brother admitted to this in Surviving R. Kelly Story. And this is actually true. R. Kelly has never really talked about it, but R. Kelly's brother has said that he was molested himself, and he assumes that his brother was, and I believe it was a family member, I think an uncle. Yeah, that's sad, but R. Kelly's brother has not turned to molesting children. And the same thing with Kevin Spacey. There's a lot of allegations out there that Spacey was molested by his father, who was actually, I believe, a Nazi. Spacey's brother talks about how terrible he was. That, to me, that may be a contributing factor, but it certainly is not an excuse. If those horrific things happen to you as a child, I find it hard-pressed to want to do that to another person. I'm not going to sit here and get on my soapbox and tell everybody what a terrible childhood I had, but I got to tell you, I grew up poor. You definitely got a licking. There were some things that happened to me as a kid that I would never, ever think about doing to my children, ever. And in fact, I took those negative experiences and said, that's not how I'm going to treat my kids. That's not how I'm going to grow up. And you take those and you learn from them. You don't take them, absorb them, and then project that pain and hate on other people.
Well, psychologically, if you do go through a major trauma, at least this is the information I'm getting from talking to some psychologists, you either could go in two ways. You either perpetrate the same kind of trauma that has been committed to you and do it onto other people. That's why we're seeing many child abusers become child abusers themselves later on in their lives, or they become an advocate against it very loudly and they talk about it very openly. Those two possibilities are very strong when it comes to major traumatic incidences. It wouldn't surprise me if this was a major trauma incident that does need to be understood, that again, shouldn't be condoned, shouldn't be allowed, should be persecuted under the fullest extent of the law, so it's prevented and not continued. The fact that this is continued, the fact that this has gone on for so long is a travesty, to say the least.